forget to record.
I got it. No, my notes I have in red, it says press record.
Trust me, I've been there.
Okay. Okay, here's Sammy. Let me
Hi, Rita, I'm in.
Hi. Welcome. Can you turn on your camera?
Will do. Let me have 1 second. I'll be right on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. We will get started in a few minutes, but thank you for joining us. Paul, how come you didn't remind me about the music today?
Again. Oh my goodness. I'm falling down on my job here. You gotta take it old school. You gotta put on something like Celia Cruz or Tito Puente.
Oh yeah, it would have been beautiful.
With a good Latin rhythm to it.
Now you guys are talking now. Talking my language.
Yeah, we have the ultimate singer dancer here.
We have.
Oh,
Thank you, Olga. Gracias. Okay. Welcome, legislator.
Hi, how are you? I wasn't sure. I was like logging into another one, but I'm here.
Yes, and you look perfect. Thank you. And we have our colleagues joining us in, and they're coming in. So we'll just get started. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our second leadership talk in celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month. I'm looking forward to another incredible conversation with some of our county leaders. Our department, the Department of Human Resources, Personnel, and Civil Service, is engaged in an ongoing effort to support and nurture a diverse and inclusive workforce and develop Suffolk County as an organization and place where people prefer to live, work, play, learn, and raise their families. We know that our employees are some of the best. And if you've been on any of these or every one of these, you always hear me say that our employees are rock stars. And our hope is that you get to learn more about each other through this programming and our future employee engagement activities. I have to thank our personnel officer, Tom Melito, for his leadership. And I'm especially grateful to our county executive, Steve Ballone, for his inspirational vision to make Suffolk County the employer of choice. My name is Rita Fernandez. My pronouns are she, her, and I serve as the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer. This month, well, September 15th to October 15th, is nationally recognized as Hispanic Heritage Month to celebrate and recognize the many contributions of Hispanic Americans in the United States. So let's start this conversation because I'm very excited to hear from our colleagues this afternoon. And I'd like to start by introducing our moderator for this discussion, Olga El-Fahmy, who was a panelist yesterday. And Olga is the Director of Human Services in the Office of the County Executive. And I'm so happy to have her participate and support these initiatives. So Olga, I'm going to turn over the conversation to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. And like you said, just a reminder, the Hispanic Heritage Month does not end the end of September. We still have 50 more days. So if any of you still have more ideas, get out there and celebrate, contribute. I think more than anything, it's not only celebrated amongst ourselves, amongst each other, but to take the opportunity to be an educator of your culture and of your roots to anyone else out there who wishes to know more. I'm going to start first with introducing legislator Samuel Gonzalez. Now, it's hard for me to say all of that because to me personally and to our Latino community, he is Sammy, right? Someone who is very much a person of the people. Sammy Gonzalez was elected to the Suffolk County Legislature to the 9th Legislative District on March 19 of 2019. His district covers the areas of Brentwood, Central Islip, and North Bayshore, which we know are predominantly a Latino community. He was born in Brooklyn. Sam spent his career as a labor advocate, fighting for workers across New York State. He started his career in labor as a shop steward with a retail, wholesale, and department store union, and was promoted to lead organizer. With more than 38 years of experience in the labor movement, Sammy has proven to be an exceptional leader, dedicated to charting a new course for the labor movement in New York City and beyond. Sammy resides in Brentwood, where he is an active member of various local groups. He is also a dedicated husband, father, and grandfather. Sammy, I'm reading your bio. There's nothing here about your music, about what a gifted musician you are. So you need to tell us a little bit more of that rhythm that you got going on. You're on mute, Sammy.
My apologies. I'm also running over to the mosque as you and I talk. I did. You know, it was on purpose, Olga, and to all those that are listening, that I kind of left my 41-year career in the music out of my bio. The reason for that is that, you know, as someone, like I said, 41 years, 21 recordings later, and it's funny that you mentioned early on, you know, Tito Puente and all these guys, because early on in my life, in my career, I started doing vocals for Tito Puente and Celia Cruz. And so, you know, I've kind of like evolved. 5 passports later, not bad for a kid from Brooklyn, New York, Latino, the love of music just is really, really deep. And I wanted to be seen not as a musical artist, but I wanted to be known to everyone in this community of someone that has been an advocate, activist, working in his community. So that was intentional, Olga. And, you know, that was intentional. And so, but I'm proud. I'm proud, Olga. I am so proud of being able to play. And I still perform with the son of Tito Rodriguez, who was an icon. And that's what I do, Olga. Whenever I have a chance to get up on stage or travel and sing, that's my getaway.
And I think that I appreciate that because as a legislator, you know, you do have to come across as someone very serious, responsible. But I think as Latinos, we are multifaceted, and especially in music, in singing, cooking, you know, so all these things that we like to do. It's part of who you are, and yes, you should feel very proud. And I know that because you're running to other things. I want to start by asking you directly, so we know how you arrived in your position. You were elected, and you, like you said, not bad for a kid from Brooklyn. In your district, in your legislative district, what do you think are the biggest challenges? Because as you know, I'm also very familiar with that area, and you know it very well. You live there. Um, what would you like to see change or happen in your district?
Well, I think that right now, and and I'm about to say something that's bittersweet. As the only legislator Latino in all of Long Island, and I think one of the biggest challenges that I am encountering right now, and I get it, there are things in the community. There is homelessness still. There are things that are happening negative um, in certain parts of my district. And that will be taken care of, Olga, and to the panel. That will be handled. We will fix that. But I think one of the most important things that I am trying to do now, especially in this forum that we're in today, right now, is to try to get our communities, regardless of where you come from, your ethnicity, is to come together. I've found that there are many organizations, many different ethnicities that they work on their own, or they're afraid that if they work with another organization that, oh my God, they're going to take my contacts, they're going to take this. And as Latinos, we are very prideful people. And I think that is one of the biggest. The other things, you know what, we can deal with. We can work, we can fix it. But when it comes to la raza, la diferentes raza that are in my community, my biggest challenge is to try to get all the ethnicities, all these organizations to come together, Olga. Why? Because could you imagine what would be able to happen if every single organization, Hispano, Latinos, if we would all come together under one flag? Could you imagine the power, the vision that would be unbelievable, Olga? And I think out of everything, I get it. Like I said, we got homelessness, we got situations happening in certain things. But I think that could be handled and fixed. It's not easy, Olga, to change a human being's mindset. And that's what I find very, very, very challenging. But I'm trying.
Thank you, Sammy. And as it's so fitting that you're on your way running to a mosque service, right? Because they're
Yes.
right there in your community. Also, they are our neighbors. And actually, my husband just ran out the door because you're probably gonna meet him there at the same mosque, right?
Yes.
And that's how we are. We're just this fabric made out of so many different people. I want to go and talk to Paul Martinez. Paul yesterday did a beautiful job in leading us through the session yesterday. So I'm trying to do justice to Paul for what he did yesterday. Paul comes to the county with many years of corporate experience in staffing and recruiting. Paul Martinez is currently in charge of talent acquisition. He is also, his background has a previous experience with multiple banks, Capital One. He's a member of the Society for Human Resources Management, also a member of the Business Advisory Council for Suffolk County, Viscardi Center, and a member of the LGBT Network Workplace Advisory Council. Paul, so I am reading all your professional experience and background, but I really want to know more about you personally. And I don't have that here in writing. I want to know, I want to know, take the time to tell us where you come from, as a person and how you arrive at your current position.
Sure. Thank you. And I appreciate the kind words. The panel yesterday was fantastic. I really had such a great time with everyone. And as I said to you also, it's great when you can hear so much about people. It's one thing to hear about people professionally, but it's also to hear about people's journeys and how they came into the county or how they came into their careers. For myself, I came to the county just a short time ago. I only started in February, and I was brought on by Tom Melito to head up talent acquisition. And I feel it's a word that's used a lot, but I truly feel blessed with the opportunity. It's an opportunity to come into the county and really try and see how we can make a difference and try and work with people like Retha and yourself and others in the county to foster relationships where we can improve diversity, equity, and inclusion, but also just look to see how we can be strategic in our recruiting efforts throughout the county and insert efficiencies in the county. Myself, I have, as you mentioned, a little bit over 25 years worth of talent acquisition recruiting experience, but that also encompasses a lot of outreach that I do through my work, as well as university relations, and then also diversity, equity, and inclusion in other companies. And so when I hear that here in the county, and I hear that's such a main focus of the county executive and others, it's something that excites me because it's an opportunity to come here and be surrounded by people who share the same passion that I do, which is making a difference in that regard. Myself, we talked about a little bit before the meeting started. I'm 54 years old, and I'm blessed to have 2 children. I am recently married. I'm coming up on my 1-year anniversary, believe it or not, at the end of October. So it's a big celebration, and we're excited about that. And it's just an experience that I'm really enjoying so far. I was always in the private sector, be able to come here into the public sector. There's so much to learn, but as I mentioned before, I get to interact with people who have such a vast knowledge of Suffolk County government as a whole. It's great at my age to be able to learn new things, but also be able to provide my skill set and my background into other things like working with people with disabilities, or seeing how we can further partner with the LGBT network, the Hispanic networks throughout Long Island. And I'm very, very honored to be able to partner with Retha on those things as well.
That's great, Paul. So when you finish celebrating Hispanic month, you'll start celebrating your anniversary, your 1st year anniversary.
Exactly. And don't think my wife will make sure that I focus on that as well.
Thank you. I want to go and introduce Christian Macario. I have worked directly with Christian, and he is such a always polite, composed young man, not to mention bright, smart, full of new ideas. He has been instrumental in the office of the county executive. He is the first college graduate in his family. Christian began his career in the construction and development industry in the New York metropolitan area. After the 2016 election, he shifted his political work to full-time, working on city, congressional, and national campaigns, most recently on County Executive Belon's re-election campaign and the presidential campaign for Biden-Harris in Florida. In his role, now he serves as the Director of Operations for Community Recovery in the County Executive Office. He has been on the front lines at the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. Christian helped in the hotspot testing program, vaccination pods, and county-wide food initiatives to help those in need, in particular communities of color. Christian is also part of the county executive's leadership team charged by Governor's Executive Order 203 to reimagine policing, which has led to the county's robust police reform plan. Christian also serves as the national chair of the Unión Fuerza Latinx Institute, which develops LGBTQ Latino individuals through leadership development, scholarships, and organizational capacity building in a nationwide alliance. Very, very proud of working with Christian. And so Christian, I met you when you were working on the campaign for County Executive Ballon. And then from there, tell us a little bit about how you arrived at your current position.
Yeah, well, first, thank you, Olga, for being a great moderator. I think you're doing great justice to this. And congratulations, Paul, for your anniversary. I think that's huge. And Sammy, always a pleasure to be in a panel with such a great leader in our community. So yeah, I think from where I met you to now, it's been a long journey from advocating for the Latinx community through LGBTQ outreach to how do we talk to people who usually are left out of the political system? How do we engage people who are overlooked in many different industries, from healthcare to voting to, most recently the pandemic. So I've had the pleasure to work for the county, thanks to the county executive bringing me on. And, within the first couple of weeks, the pandemic started. So it was not an easy transition. It kind of picked up really quickly. And I think that can be said for many people who work in the county, that everyone showed up for the moment. And it was a moment where we could all be very proud of serving the people of Suffolk. We were able to get resources to people in need, thanks to the leadership of Deputy County Executive Vanessa Beer-Streeter, who I work with. We were able to find initiatives that usually these groups would be forgotten, and just making sure that they're included, make sure that their thoughts and perspectives are part of the conversation. And I think that's what we all want in this conversation, is making sure that we have a seat at the table, make sure that when these decisions are being made, our family and our experiences are brought into that conversation to ensure that no one is left behind and that we are all included in the solution. And I think thanks to the leadership of the county executive and the people in Suffolk County, we were able to do that. So my story is not that unique. My parents migrated here at the age of 16 with no education, with no money in their pocket. They met getting a GED in the city. And my dad was a dishwasher, a mechanic, a truck driver, and eventually a business owner. My mom went back to school at the age of 40 after raising me and my 4 brothers. So my work ethic and my passion comes from their continuous effort to making it better for us, but also for our community. So I'm happy to be here, and thank you so much for inviting me to this great conversation.
Such a role model you become at an early age for us immigrants and for those kids, of immigrants who are, sometimes it's hard to find a way. Before Legislator Gonzalez jumps off, because I know he has to get there, I have one last question for you, because I'm going to jump several questions ahead. I feel this one is really important. I want to hear your answer. How do you imagine Suffolk County becoming the employer of choice? How do we make people say, oh my God, like people say, if I could work for Google, right? If someone could work for the county government, how do we make that happen?
Well, number one, we have to continue, especially the things that we're doing now, putting things in place, like I said, in the human resources, putting it in leadership, being able for other people to see that its leadership is inclusive, and it's inclusive to Hispanics and our minority, where they can actually see that, wait a second, this isn't like what I saw, or I keep hearing. When legislations are putting in, like Jason Richburg's resolution recently, about making sure that qualified minorities are added to position, like Ms. Fernandez, like you, Olga, Vanessa Streeter. When they see individuals like Christian and Paul, when they get to see that its leadership is inclusive, and we keep creating jobs, we keep saving jobs, and they continue being well-paying jobs. I guarantee you, I've been able as a union leader to work and throughout the state of New York, but nothing, nothing close to what I have been seeing recently under this administration. Our county executive continues to put forth these laws that are going to be inclusive, and it starts from the top. And when you got a leader, when you have a leader like Steve Malone, and he keeps putting these laws in, and he keeps bringing into the administration Latinos and people of color that are qualified, and then they bring their ideas here. How do I open up? How do I do this to bring people to come here to this county? And I think we're headed in the right directions, Olga. I think we are. We just have to continue being mindful that going forward, we keep that in mind. We do not stray. And I believe that by doing this, putting in smart resolutions that increases more jobs, it saves more jobs, better paying jobs. I think with its leadership, and the future looks so bright, Olga, when you have a leader like Christian and many like Chris. The future is so bright, Olga. I'm telling you, it is so bright. We're doing things, we're creating smart laws. We are creating the possibility that when people come along and they say, wait a minute, I want to work in Suffolk County. Guess what happens along with that? They're not going to commute for too long. So they're going to look for residency here in Suffolk County. And once you find residency here, your children are being put in our schools. You start bringing in the almighty dollar back into Suffolk County. It is a chain reaction. And when I entered the resolution to include everybody in New York and the 5 boroughs for the deputy sheriffs and the sheriffs, I have been told that that is increasing the applications to apply for these positions. They are not leaving to go to the 5, to go to corrections in New York. No, now we are at the correct pay scale that will not allow our residents to leave. And now we're getting more people from New York coming here. So it is a domino effect. No, listen, I know we're in Hispanic heritage. I got to use the word domino. But this is what we have to continue, Olga, and Paul. We have to continue doing what we're doing, smart laws, and mentor our young, mentor our future. And I tell you that they listen. They do listen. And again, I think that is how I feel that we can do this by continuing our pattern, continuing and making smart decisions. And Suffolk County is headed in a very bright direction.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sammy Legislator Gonzalez, and I wish you a happy Juma and a good weekend.
Yep. Take care, Sammy. Let us know when that.
Thank you so much. I'm about to go into the mock.
Thank you.
By the way, I know we're in Hispanic heritage. I am trying to create a coquito competition here in my district. I will need judges to taste. So anyone that is, Olga, look at this, Olga, Paul, who else? I know, I can see Ruth, Aretha, I can see her. All right, but no, yes, I will all be sending invitations to that. I think it's going to be a beautiful event, a fun event. Pero
Oh, Commissioner Francis Pierre says she wants to be the judge. What do you think?
of course,
Do we let
of
her?
course she does. Yeah, we can let her in. Yeah, we
Okay.
can let her be one of the judges. I love you.
That's the word
Feliz
too.
día. Feliz mes de la hispanidad. Olga, I just put it down. You are a rock star.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
To the panelists, congratulations. Please be safe out there. Lo quiero mucho. Bueno, feliz día de la, feliz mes de la hispanidad para todos. Que Dios los
Gracias,
cuide.
Sammy.
Gracias.
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 Paul, I want to go back with you now. You've had a lot of experience through your career, and during that long career, can you tell us one occasion when you may have encountered an obstacle? And what was it, how you overcame it, and what did you take away as a lesson from there?
Thank you. I think one of the lessons I've learned, I think it's not just one specific lesson, but it's one specific theme, I guess we could call it. It's perseverance. And it's one of those things of staying focused. Sammy just mentioned it also, just making sure that you remain diligent. And for me, it's looking for those opportunities or creating those opportunities to move ahead, to not let others determine how you will be or what you will be. Throughout my career, I've always looked at ways of reinventing myself or taking the skills that I've had and applying them, or looking at a gap that maybe was there and then saying, well, I could fill that gap with X, Y, and Z. But it's always, for me, been something where I've looked at challenges and never shied away from them. I didn't want it to be that I was defeated by something. And there have been times, whether it was people or circumstances that had gotten, we'll call it, in the way. And it's a matter of, well, what will you do with those people? What will you do with those circumstances? And it's always the clear mind and the focused thought that enables you to progress through it. If you have a difficult person, which I've had in my career, we all have. And it's how do you use that person to act as a springboard for you. So for me, I've always looked at taking a bad situation and I have to gain something good from it. It doesn't have to be monumental, it doesn't have to be life-changing, but I refuse in my personal life and my professional life to look at instances that I've been placed in and grab something from that, whether it's, like I said, whether it's something negative. And I've been fortunate enough to really be able to use that as a fuel to light the fire, if you will. And, you know, I look at people that were, I hate saying this, but if they wanted to present challenges to me or would be a negative, and I looked at that person and I said, well, what can I learn from that person? How can I take that person and use that person to be a positive influence and drive me forward? And I've been fortunate enough to be able to do that throughout my personal life and my professional life. And it's, I gotta tell you, it helps. It's, you know, it's like the old saying, life is 10% about what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. And I really do firmly believe that. I think that you should always try and really fully assess things, get yourself centered, and then move forward. So that's what I try to do.
Very true, Paul. I want to add to what you say. Life is what happens, you know, percentage what happens to you. I also think, why is this happening to me, but this is happening for me, right?
Yep.
Because out of this, I need to learn something. I need to find out why this is happening for me. So, Christian, so I'm supposed to ask you the same question. What obstacles have you encountered in your career journey? But because you have such a young career still, I want to go to the chat and ask you a question that Rafael Fabian is asking. And I wanna see, give us your perspective. How can we let our Hispanic culture shine without causing division? What kind of message can we share with the community? Thanks, Rafael, for that question.
Yeah, thank you, Rafael, for such a great question. One of my first career steps was working at LULAC, which is the League of United Latin American Citizens. It's the oldest Latino civil rights organization in the country, established in 1929. And there I kind of felt my first crosshairs of, the challenges Latinos face when it comes to passing legislation, when it comes to advancing within the federal government. And I learned a lot of lessons about perseverance and pushing forward and utilizing each other's network to ensure that you are valid when you're asking for certain things, and that you are valid when you're advocating for people who don't have a voice many times. And when I was jumping onto the political landscape of things, people didn't have a budget for, communities of color outreach. They just had one size fits all. The way we talk to this group, we should talk to everyone. So I think that kind of hits on Rafael's question, is how do we strategize and understand that there is differences, and those differences are empowering and beautiful, and how do we put resources towards that to get a good outcome for everyone? And so that's kind of what I think about when it comes to showing the benefit of sharing our beautiful culture and influence in our community, and showing that in this country we celebrate difference, and that's kind of one of our bedrocks, is celebrating that difference. And that is highlighted here today in Hispanic Heritage Month and African American Month in later on. And with that difference and that cultural exchange, you can become a better organization, you can become a better person, because now you're coming through it from a space of empathy and being in other people's shoes. And it just makes you, and it makes everyone, a more rounded person. So from my experience at LULAC, I learned that you need to share these stories, because these stories can't be forgotten, and we need to share that so the next generation picks up that mantle, because that's really how I am where I am. I'm on top of the shoulders of people who fought in farm right workers movements in California, but also on the shoulders of Sylvia Rivera from Stonewall in 1969 in the LGBTQ movement. Those two movements made me in the position to be what I'm doing now. And we need to celebrate that culture. We need to celebrate that heritage so that we can continue the path for that next generation. So I say celebrate as much as we can.
Very good. Okay. Did I tell you, everybody, that he was smart? He's amazing. And I lost my, there is one question. Oh, Rafael, so I wanted to expand also, I might take to what Christian said. Latinos, we are unique because we come from so many countries, right? So people always ask me, so if someone from Argentina speaks their Spanish, do you understand them? It's like, because we have so many countries. And I was working with the Jewish Advisory Board, and their issues and their plight, and they were putting together something. And they were asking me also some questions about Latino Hispanic heritage. And they realized, they said, we can be so united and we can get so much accomplished because we all come from one land. Basically they go back to their land of Israel. And even though there can be many sects, they all unite under that one flag. And he was telling me, you guys have so many, how do you come together? How do you say, okay, this is what we're going to stand for. This is what we're going to demand. This is what we're going to request. And that's very difficult for us. And Rafael, that probably goes back to what you said. So our food can be diverse, our language can also be diverse, but if we just use one flag and say, okay, we are Latinos, we are Hispanics, it really doesn't matter where you come from, because let me tell you, if someone doesn't like me because I'm Mexican, they're not gonna like you either because you're Puerto Rican, right? So you don't let anybody say, oh, those are Guatemalan or El Salvador, those are less than me being Puerto Rican. No, it doesn't matter. That's just that's a lie. So we cannot see any of us better than the other one. And talking about Latinos, I want to ask a question. It wasn't on the list, but Latinx, right? Putting the X to the Latino. It's a new thing. I know Christian uses a lot. I wasn't used to that. That's a new thing for me. And people ask me, should we do it? Like if I'm the expert in this, I say, I don't know. That's kind of a new thing. So I want to hear both Christian and Paul's take on Latinx.
I'm gonna let Christian go first on that one because it's a newer term, and it's funny
Right.
because from an HR perspective, it's something that continuously has come up more and more regularly, and that's great. But I'm gonna let Christian go first because I know it's something.
Christian is Rita, the person in the chat is asking, what does that mean? When you add an X to Latinx.
Yes, as a history of the Latino and Latinx movements here in the United States, I think the Latinx is a very interesting one. So Latinx tries to be a more inclusive phrase to describe the Latino community. Latino, as we know, with our language, is a very gender masculine language. Everything is baseline as the masculine version. So Latino, references male, where Latina is female. So the Latinx is trying to hopefully eliminate the gender of the community. And it goes towards, the LGBTQ movements, and they're wanting to have a more inclusive language. It is a very sticky subject just because it's very new. So, linguistics people who study the transition of language don't recognize it because it isn't really defined in our dictionary yet as the way to identify the Latina community. But that's kind of where it comes from. It comes from a place of, let's have a phrase that still explains Latinidad, but in a gender neutral way. So that's a quick intro to that.
Thank you, Christian. What is your take, Paul, about using it or not using it?
I like anything that's creating an inclusive mindset. And I think that when you, like Christian hit it right on the head, when you have something that's gender neutral, it's always nice because you're not creating division within a group that you're already talking about. And so having Latinx come out as opposed to Latino or Latina, I think it's great because I've always been one, and it's funny because Rita and I have had conversations about this, but it's always troubling to me when you split things and then you split it again and you split it again and then you split it again. It has an occasion to almost dilute the message or dilute the thought process to it, and it's always concerning to me. I like when we can have very focused attention on different things, whether it's focused attention on a group. Christian mentioned this before, which is the LGBT community, and inclusiveness. And I think that when you talk about Latinx, I think it's always good. I would like to see that transition continue. I think where you have almost a deviation, if you will, is when you talk about Hispanics versus Latinx, and that's where things become a little bit confusing, if you will, but it's all just a matter of geography in that instance. And that's something that is way more of a more involved conversation than just breaking down what Latinx is. I think Christian is shaking his head. Jesse can agree with that.
Yeah.
So I like both your answers. I am going to tell you that I read about that and it gave me a different perspective. It said, my language, the Spanish language, is made to, but gender is gender specific, right? And when in English, when we want to say Latinx, we are not paying attention to our original language, that our language is purposely made to be Latino, Latina. That if we say Latina, we are being specific of women. But if we say Latinos, we are not excluding women. Although, like you say, Christian, it is a male-oriented word. So
Right.
it was kind of like you need to respect the fact that our original language is gender, it's not gender neutral. So
I think it's important to keep in mind, never lose sight of the fact of the language and the male female components of it. No one's ever saying to dismiss that, but I like the fact, like I was saying before, that you can get both together. I think Latino women should always be proud of just that, being women and being proud, whether you're African American, whether you're from the LGBT community, whether you're from the Hispanic community, it doesn't matter. You can be a proud woman the same way you can be a man and be proud of yourself as well. But I think when we talk about communities from a holistic approach, I think that there's nothing wrong in saying Latinx, but with the understanding that there are males and there are females.
Yeah,
like
I think, it's still the jury's still out on it for sure.
it's a new thing.
A new thing, but it's definitely coming, and I think that's an important thing to emphasize. It's coming from the younger, educated Latino, Latinx community. So it's not coming from outside of our community trying to impose it on us. It's definitely coming from internal and a segment of our community who's trying to find inclusive language. And I think whenever you do that, it's going to take a couple years and take some time. But I think the effort it's worth the try. So, and I think that's the most important thing.
Thank you. And another question, a little bit related to that, because I noticed in the chat that we have several people that are not Latinos or Hispanic, and I wanna maybe for them, the differentiation between Latino or Hispanic, which I get asked a lot also. So Paul,
Well, hard question today, Olga.
I'm winging this, Rita was so nice giving me all her questions.
Like, none of these questions are on the paper Rita gave me.
I'm freestyling here. So
We didn't get a chance to prepare, Christian. She's catching us off guard.
Yeah, because I get asked this a lot. Is it Hispanic? Should I say Hispanic? Should I say Latino? Can you guys put this to rest? Paul.
Yeah, Paul. Yeah, definitely.
My understanding of Latin versus Hispanic is really, as I quickly referenced before, which is geography, and it's the different parts of the world and where you reside from or where you're from. I think that's being cognizant of the time. It's just a matter of just that geography does play a part in it. It's something that can become a huge conversation, but I'm trying to keep it as basic as possible. I don't want to go too broad.
No, that is pretty good. And Christian.
Yes, I think Latino, the Latin America, it brings into the conversation Brazil and more Caribbean nations who might have a different language than Spanish. So, Latin America, that kind of encompasses all of it, where Hispanic brings us back to the colonial, Spaniard and that kind of context. So there is a larger conversation. It's funny, me and Vanessa had this conversation yesterday. But there's a larger conversation of what they mean, but that in its most basic is, Latin America, Brazil is a part of that, even though they're not,
Mhm.
Spanish, they speak Portuguese, and then Hispanic is from the European
People
Spaniards.
who actually are from Spain.
Yeah,
Yeah. Adesua has a question on the chat. She's had wonderful mentors in my career in health, one of which was a powerful advocate for the Latino Hispanic, Sandra Hill. And we know, Sandra passed away from cancer a couple of years ago. She helped me better understand the strengths, needs, and obstacles of all our fellow community members. Can you name one of your mentors and why they were so impactful? Paul.
called me out on that one. I like that. That was good. Right at me. Um, I hate to sound cliche. In my professional career, and oddly enough, I have not had really a lot of Hispanic mentors. I will be honest with that.
Yeah.
It's something that is not uncommon, but I look back at my career. Like I said, I'm 54 years old. I've been in corporate for quite some time. And I look at my career and I say to myself, well, who would have influenced me, or who could I look at that would have been from the Hispanic community and would have been someone that I could aspire to professionally? And I have to be honest, I can't think of anybody. I've had mentors and I've had people that I truly admired
Yeah.
and respected, but they were not from the Hispanic community. If you were looking for someone from the Hispanic community, it sounds very cliche, but I go back to my father. Christian was mentioning his family before, but my father was someone who, my father is 85 years old, and he was an airline mechanic for 28 years with Pan Am. He would go back and forth to JFK every day, but he supported my brother, my sister, and I, and my mom. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom because that was the thing back then.
Mhm.
But my father was someone who believed in just doing what was right and always strived to work hard. And he always told me very sternly that I had to finish when I started and I had to stay committed. And he always taught me that, listen, you're going to have obstacles. Don't roll over. Don't just sit there and say, oh, it's an obstacle, and throw your hands up in the air and stop. And he and I are different in a lot of different ways. Most definitely. He's rough and blue collar, and he's
Right.
that kind of guy. But he's someone who is easy to admire and respect because of the fact that he has persevered. When I was young, we moved into the community that I live in now, and it was, I'll say, 99% white at the time. So a Hispanic family living in a predominantly white community was a big challenge for him, as well as myself and my siblings, but more so for him because he was bringing us into a community, or having us grow up in a community that he was going to see things and experience things that I only realized later on in life. And I admire him for being able to push through that and show people that he might be a blue collar worker. He might be from his family might be from Puerto Rico, but he was worthy of being in that community. He did not accept the judgment of others, and I love that about him, and I respect him for that. And he never once faltered. And so, when you talk about someone to admire, it would be him, definitely.
Thank you, Paul. That's beautiful. How about you, Christian?
Yeah, thank you, Odessa, for that question. I see. So I have to echo Paul when it comes to family and my parents, because it is a kind of lonely road as a Latino in this kind of career path. But I will be remiss to not mention my mentor from LULAC, Sara Clemente, who is a Afro-Latina Puerto Rican, like, smart and just powerful and just confident in everything that she does. And she really showed me the ropes of just advocating for yourself and advocating for others. And to not be afraid to say you don't know something, and look for those who do know and who are a little bit ahead of you, and you can get that collective knowledge to figure out a problem that yourself is a little hard to figure out. And also, you know, Olga is a great.
Thank you.
So I have to say that as well.
I have very high hopes for you, Christian, for our Latino community, and the importance of your work to our Latino community. I'm saddened by Paul's answer that he really didn't have a Latino role model, but I know that because of that, I mean, besides his dad, but because of that, Paul, I know that you are now probably being one for other people, right? So I just, you know, hope to see you all continue to contribute to everyone, but especially to our Latino community, to bring the next ones up, you know, by the hand into county government, and generally in everything. Rita, I want to welcome you back so that you can say goodbye. And I want to thank everyone who sat with us through this hour. Always feel free to reach out to me, to any one of us, if you ever want to discuss Latinx versus Hispanics, and coquito recipes, of course.
You're muted, Rita. Rita, you're muted. Rita. Very inspiring.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Olga. Thank you, everyone. I know, Olga, you were amazing. I know that I had a format, but you
did.
made
Sorry.
it your own. You freestyled it. I love it. We might have to follow that format. And it also gave me, reminded me to have some grace, like, and every moment is as it should be. So thank you for that. And the conversation was great. And thank you all for joining. These conversations are all recorded, so we record them and we put them on the county intranet page, so you can go back and listen again, or you can go and listen to the one from yesterday. And you can also tell your colleagues, say, well, we had this great conversation, you should go listen to it, and share the link. So thank you all again. And our department will be putting out some more information and sharing some more content with you related to Hispanic Heritage Month, allowing us to share and celebrate our colleagues and the people that we live and share this Suffolk County space with. So thank you, everyone, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And Olga, you were amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you, guys.
You rocked it.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you. Be
Bye-bye.
safe.
Bye.
There they all go.
Okay, Paul, we gotta get some flan recipes, it says here.
I think that on the links that I sent you, I think they were, I think
Oh,
flan
perfect.
was in
So
there.
when I make that into an image, we'll send that out. Okay,
I think
I'm
it's
gonna
really
end
good.
it. Bye, Paul. Thank you.
Bye.